Hi and welcome to TEC Bike Parts. Today we're going to be looking at a couple of new parts that we have for the current Royal Enfield models, but we're also going to give an update on some of the things that are happening here at TEC and some of the new things that we're working on as well, a bit of a teaser. And also we're going to address some of the frequently asked questions we get. So first of all, the one we get asked the most about is the BSA. Are we getting one and are we going to be making parts for it? The answer is yes and yes. We're expecting one in the first batch. We've got order number 24 in, so we should hopefully get that in the first batch of bikes. And I've spoken to a couple of the test guys, a couple of the journos that drove them at Millbrook testing ground, and I've had interesting feedback about them. Everybody seems to like the engine. You can take the baffle out, which improves the sound no end. Performance wise, everybody seems to think it's adequate, but the bike is a bit on the heavy side. They use Gabriel suspension like the Interceptor does, and very similar to the Interceptor, people have said it's all right until you start to push on, and then it just gets itself a little bit tied up, which is understandable because they're pretty basic suspension components. But the good news is we can fettle these ones, so we should be able to sort out the suspension fairly quickly on the BSA and give it some decent upgrades. Just from looking at the bike, I think the main emphasis what we'll be doing is trying to get the weight down on it, which is because it's quite heavy for a single. Do something about the horrible black plastic thing that hangs off the back mudguard, and come up with some sort of tail tidy. It was very similar in design what was on the Meteor actually from the factory, and we managed to sort a much neater solution out for that. So hopefully we should be able to go there and do that. So fingers crossed we should have one of those fairly soon, and we'll be doing some videos on it after we've ridden it and we see what we feel personally about it. But yes, we're definitely, it's booked in for a bit of tech magic on it. Triumph, people seem to think we don't do Triumph anymore because we do so much with the Royal Enfield, but Triumph is still our main core business. We're still developing parts for the Trident. We've got a few new parts coming out fairly soon on that, but we are getting a Tiger 650. Now you might say, why would we get a Tiger? Because it's very similar to the Trident. Now, I love the Trident 650 for many reasons, mostly the engine. The engine is beautiful in it. But it has got its limitations because it's a naked bike. It's quite focused to being sort of a bit of a scratcher. And it's great for a Sunday night out with your mates on their performance bikes, or maybe it's just a trip down to the pub or something like that. But it's a long distance bike. You're going to get a bit of fatigue and wind blast with the riding position and the lack of any sort of fairing or luggage, anything like that. So I love the idea of the engine the same engine being used in the Tiger 660 with a bit more suspension travel, a much more comfortable riding position, and an adjustable screen on the fairing. So it sort of addresses all the points that I think personally for me that the Trident was slightly shortcoming on for the type of riding that I was doing. But if you ride in a sort of semi-urban environment, don't do massive miles, the Trident is a brilliant bike. But we're looking forward to getting that. That's due in a few weeks' time, the new Tiger. Like I say, the engine is a peach in those because it's got the power band of a much larger CC engine. Triumph have been very clever how they've done it. They've sacrificed a bit of the overall power to give you a massive spread. And no matter what gear in most corners, if you get it completely wrong, the bike will just pull out. It'll pull from 2000 revs cleanly without any flat spots or peaks or troughs. It'll pull from 2 to 10,000 beautifully. And if you want just a lazy ride, you don't have to stir the gear stick up. But it is quite rewarding when you keep the bike in its higher rev band to give you that satisfaction of sort of really riding the bike and using the gearbox. So it's a bit of a sort. It's not Jekyll and Hyde, but it'll go for your mood of riding, it fits you perfectly. And it's quite a light bike as well, which I like the idea of that. And they're very, very keenly priced, hence they're both the top selling bikes in their category at the moment. But anyway, back to Royal Enfield. So we've got a couple of new parts. One we said we were going to do from the start on just for the Meteor only, because we looked at this originally, the gear linkage on the bike, and it's very, very cheap and nasty. And also a lot of people didn't like the heel. Personally myself, I didn't like the heel, and there's very little you could do with this. I know some people have just chopped the heel part off and use it as a toe in your gear change, and put a rose jointed linkage on the bottom, which we tried all these things, but none of them were ideal solutions, because it ends up looking like a donkey's hind leg, because it's got to clear everything, so it's got twists and bends in it, and also it's mounted quite low down, so it gets a lot of road dirt and water thrown up on it. So after several attempts, I decided to start again with a clean sheet of paper, and we just designed this system, which is multi-adjustable, and it's a toe-only system. So I'll give you a closer look at that now. So as you can see, we started with a completely clean and new design. We've made this CNC machined alloy gear lever. Here's a silver one, which will show you in a bit better contrast the design of it. Now this comes with two mounting holes at the end. It's supplied with a turned end, but from the feedback we've had on the gear lever system we did on the Royal Enfield, people have asked for a rubber tip. So after we designed them, we now make an optional rubber tip that you can put on as well, which is, you just substitute the part there. So yeah, it comes with a specially shaped mounting to go on the gear shaft, which is much shorter in a different shape than the standard one. A stainless steel adjusted rod with proper spherical bearings and stainless steel nuts and bolts. And we've made a special, the gear levers have got a proper bearing bush in them as well, and we've turned up a stainless steel bearing pivot which incorporates a nut as well on the back, and we use a domed nut, which is all much neater than the very industrial looking nut and bolt that the Royal Enfield used on the system. One of the reasons we moved the linkage up here was so you get it straight. If you mount it underneath, it becomes a horrible convoluted linkage, and you have to have a very long arm. It also puts the linkage very low down, and these joints will get a lot of the muck and water off the front wheel thrown up onto them, whereas they're pretty well protected up here. And like I say, it's a nice straight run. You should always, with linkages, always try to be as straight and short as possible, so you get less flex and play. And it's a lovely positive action. You can see there's no free play. The only movement is actually on the manufactured shaft. There's a little bit to and fro. All of this, there's no playing whatsoever. There's very little we can do with that, apart from putting a more accurate bush in there, but you don't feel that at all. Now the other interesting thing is, obviously it's fully adjustable. By adjusting the length of this rod, you can move the lever up and down to get at the position you want. But we've put two holes in the end of here, so you can have a shorter or a longer reach. But we also supply what we do with the Interceptor gear lever kit. We supply a 4-hole extension piece which screws onto there, so you can have it in 6 positions. So it goes from about here to here. So you've got a massive range of adjustment of 6 different positions. So somebody with tiny feet or somebody with huge feet, or just a little bit smaller or larger than average, won't have any problem getting this reach to just the sweet spot where they like it. And it completely transforms the way the bike changes gear, the feel of it and everything. So we do these in black, or we do them in silver. Obviously it only fits the Meteor, this, and these are available now. So something else we've been making for Royal Enfield are these clutch arm covers. Now, personally, I don't like the idea of having these stuck on top of the engine. There's no real reason engineering wise they can't put it at the bottom of the case in here, and it would look much neater. The only reason I can think of from an engineering point of view on the engine design is they may worry if they get a leak on the shaft seal and it would drip oil, because it's obviously at the bottom of the engine and it's got oil in it. So that's fundamentally the only reason why you would stick it up here. And I'll whip this arm off and just remind you what it looks like from the factory. And it's quite an ugly, unfinished part. So I've thought for quite a while what could I do, and we came up with this machined billet CNC part. Now we make these in black and in alloy, and another benefit from it is it fits more than one model bike. It'll obviously fit both the 650 models and the new model that's coming out soon, the new model will probably have a black engine from what we've seen. So we do a black version of it as well for that, and also for the Meteor and Classic models that don't have either an alloy or a black engine. Or you can put a black one on here and mix and match it, whatever you want to do, you know. But as you say, we've machined it so it follows the line of the casing, and it sort of just tidies it up by covering everything up. We also changed the bolt to a button head bolt, which is quite a bit neater than the hex-headed bolt that was in there. And you can see how simple it is to fit. You literally just take the original bolt out and fit the new bolt in there. Recommend you put a drop of Loctite on, stop it vibrating, loosen it or whatever. But apart from that, it's like a less than a minute job to fit it. Here's a black one on the Meteor, and again you'll see how it really blends into the engine. So this will obviously fit the Meteor and the new Classic 350 as well, because it's basically the same engine. Again, most of the Classic models have got a polished engine in them, so you'd use the polish arm. But the black one really blends in with the black. These are anodised black, and you know, all I would say with anodised black parts, if you live in a country with very bright sunshine, is to use, like you do with all the paint work and black work on your bike, a polish with UV protection in it, because it can fade in a lot of sunlight, like all black parts on your bike, especially like things like black plastic and that. I would highly recommend using the UV protection polish on it. And again, it's really simple to fit. You just whip the original bolt out and put it on there. So those are available now, and like I say, they'll fit 4 different models. So that about wraps it up for this time. Don't forget to press the like button if you like what we're doing. Note that we don't have adverts. It's not a monetized channel, this, so you don't get interrupted halfway through the video and you're watching it with an advert. We do like your feedback, so if you please leave something in the comment section, or you can contact us on our email via our website, tecbikeparts.com, and subscribe, and that way you'll get notified if there's any new things come out on our Tech YouTube channel. So thanks for watching, and bye for now.